So this is Math 114, 5.6, dividing polynomials by binomials. In the last section, we looked at dividing by a monomial. In this section, we'll look at dividing by a binomial. Division of a polynomial by a monomial was a relatively easy task, as we see. We divide each term of the polynomial by the monomial. The number of separate divisions we had was equal to the number of terms in the polynomial. Dividing a polynomial by a binomial, on the other hand, on the other polynomial having more than one term is more difficult. This requires a process of long division. We will now consider the steps of dividing a polynomial by a binomial. The 4 steps that you remember using in long division of whole numbers: divide, multiply, subtract, break down the next term, form the same repetitive procedure for polynomial long division. Carefully consider and try to remember the 4 steps illustrated in the next slide. These terms are quotient, divisor, dividend, and remainder. So before we do anything, let's do a long division with numbers so we have a little idea. So we have 5 dividing 32. We know that it's 6 because we have 30. Remainder 2. So this is the important part. Divisor, dividend, quotient, remainder, and this guy right there. Notice we change the sign to subtract. Okay. So arrange the terms, divide, multiply, and subtract. So I'll give you a minute so you can read that. Then bring down, use this next expression, the dividend, and repeat the process. So we have this. So this will become x plus 2, x cubed plus 5x squared plus 7x plus 2. First thing to do is make sure that we are in descending order without missing any of the terms. So this is x cubed. So if it's descending, the next one should be x squared. Then the next one should be to the x to the power of 1 and no variables. So this is okay. So now let's see what we have. We have x. And I have to get this guy look like this guy. So to do that, I have x. I'm missing 2 x's, so I'm going to put x squared. Now I'm going to divide. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 2, that's 2x squared. Now, remember that we're going to be changing the signs. So a positive times a positive will give you positive. So this technically should be a positive. A positive times a positive should be a positive. But remember that we have to subtract. So that means that I have to distribute this negative, making those signs at the end negatives. Okay? So x cubed minus x cubed cancels out. 5x squared minus 2x squared, that's going to give me 3x squared. Now you bring this one down, plus 7x. Now, look at the sign that we have right here. In this right now, we have no sign. But technically, this is a positive, so this one has to be a positive. So we're going to do the same process again. Now, I have to use this x to look like 3x squared. So I'm missing a 3. And here we have 1x. Here we have 2, so I'm missing an x. So there we go. So we distribute. So 3 times x is 3x squared. 3 times 2 is 6x. Now, a positive times a positive make it a positive. But since we changed the sign, this is a negative now. And a positive times a positive makes it a positive, but we change the sign, so this one makes it a negative now. These two cancel out. So I have 7 minus 6 is a 1. Bring down the last term, plus 2. Again, the sign right here, it's a positive. So this has to be a positive again. Now, finally, this has to look like this, which immediately does. So I'm not going to do anything except multiply by 1. So 1 times x is still x. 1 times 2 is still a 2. Now, those two were positives. Now they're going to be negatives. And once we subtract, we have 0. So therefore, our quotient or our answer is... So we have this problem, which is 3x to the 5th minus x cubed plus 4x squared minus 12x minus 8 divided by x squared minus 2. Remember, the instructions said that in descending order, every term had to be filled in. So this is missing an x to the 4th, and this is missing an x. So we have to compensate for that. So we have x squared plus 0x minus 2 dividing 3x to the 5th plus 0x to the 4th minus x cubed plus 4x squared minus 12x minus 8. So we have this first term must look like this first term. So that means we have x squared, so we're missing a 3 in the coefficient, and that has x to the 5th, so I'm missing x cubed to make it look exactly like that. So I have 3x cubed. So 3x cubed times x squared is 3x to the 5th. Now, the sign right there, it's a positive. The sign right here is a positive. So a positive times a positive makes this a positive. But we changed the sign because of the subtraction. So this is a minus. Now, 3x cubed times 0x is 0x to the 4th. And then we have 3 times 2 is 6. X cubed, then a positive times a negative is a negative, but we change the sign, so this is now a positive. We do the math. These cancels out. The 0x, I don't really care. 6 minus 1 is 5x cubed. And then we're going to bring down what's next. Now, on this one, I'm going to bring down 2 terms because we must have 3 terms like here. So I'm going to bring plus 4x squared minus 12x. So now let's repeat the process. So let's get rid of all of this. So this first term must look like this first term. So we're missing a 5. And this is x squared, and the other one is x cubed. That means I'm missing an x. So I must have a 5x. So I have 5x. Now we have to determine what's the sign that goes here. So this is a positive, so that one has to be a positive as well. So let's distribute 5x times x squared is 5x cubed. 5x times 0x is 0x squared. And 5 times 2 is 10x. Now, the first term times the 5x, they're both positive, so a positive times a positive is a positive, but we change the sign, so it's a negative. Since we're changing the signs, this was a positive, so this has to be a negative. This was a negative, so this has to be a positive. So this cancels with this. We have 4x squared minus 2x. We'll bring down the last one because that will make our terms correct. So now let's determine the sign. This is a positive. So we must have a positive right there. This is x squared right here. So x squared, the only thing I'm missing is a 4. So 4 times x squared is 4x squared. A positive times a positive is a positive. Change the sign, it's a negative. 4 times 0x is 0x. A positive times a positive is a positive. We change the sign, so this is a negative. And finally, 4 times 2, that's an 8. And a positive times a negative is a negative, and we change the sign, so this is a positive. This cancels with this cancels with this, so I'm only left with 2x. Therefore, my answer for this huge problem is 3x cubed plus 5x plus 4 minus 2x over x squared minus 2. And this comes from the idea of mixed numbers. That's why we have to write it like this. Let's give it a shot for this one. This one says that x cubed minus 1 is being divided by x minus 1. So we have x minus 1 dividing x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. Remember, we must have those missing spaces or terms. We still have to include them. So again, this guy must look like this guy. So I have an x here. So we need 2 x's more. So this is x squared. Distribute x squared times x is x cubed. A positive times a positive makes it a positive. We change the sign. So this is a negative. X squared times 1 is x squared. A positive times a negative makes it a negative, so we change the sign, so this is a positive. These two cancels out, so we have x squared. Bring this one down, plus 0x. The sign right here is positive, so this makes this one a positive. So this first coefficient in the remainder, let's say, side has x squared, and my dividend only has one x, so I'm missing an x. So x times x is x squared. X times 1 is x. Now the signs, the positive times a positive makes it a positive. Change the sign, so that's a negative. A negative times a positive makes it a negative. Change the sign, so this is a positive. This cancels out, so I have x minus 1. Determine the sign, so this is a positive right there. That means this is a positive, and I just need a 1 because x is x already. So this becomes x1, change of signs. So my answer for this one is this right there. So this, I believe, is my last problem for this section. So we have 2x plus 3 dividing 2x cubed plus 7x squared plus 2x plus 9. So the first terms of the dividend and the divisor must be the same. So the dividend has 2x. So I'm missing an x squared. So x squared. So x squared times 2x, that's 2x cubed. A positive times a positive makes it a positive, but we change the sign, so that's a negative. Then x squared times 3, that's 3x squared. A positive times a positive makes it a positive. We change the sign, so that's a negative. We do the math, cancel. 7 minus 3 is 4x squared. Bring down the next one, so 2x. We have to determine the sign, so this guy right there is a positive. That means that this is a positive. Now, we have 2x here, we have 4x squared there, so I'm missing a 2. X and x squared, so I'm missing an x. Distribute, so I have 2 times 2 is 4, x squared. A positive times a positive makes it a positive. We change the sign, so it's a negative. 2x times 3, that's 6x. A positive times a positive makes it a positive. We change the sign, so this is a negative now. So these two cancels. So 2 minus 6 is negative 4x, and we bring down the next one. Plus 9. We have to determine the new sign, so this is a negative, so this must be a negative. So I'm missing, I have 2x and 4x. We already have the correct x, so we're just missing a 2. So a 2 times 2x is 4x. Now, a negative times a positive is a negative. We change the sign, so that's a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. A negative times a positive is a negative. We change the sign, so that's a positive. These two cancels. 9 plus 6 is 15. So we're done with this. Our answer for this problem is, I'm just making it look a little bit better. We have x squared plus 2x minus 2 plus 15 over 2x plus 3.